Hello again. Let me start with apologizing. Apparently, the last day or two, my voice seems to be wanting to give out, so I'm a little bit raspy. But today we are going to continue with the speakers, trying to get everything cut out and ready to actually do the final assembly, and I guess not the final assembly, but to assemble the boxes. And just getting some trimming done. Then I'll get this first box kind of ready to go. And I'm not, this isn't the, like this is just to make sure everything fits and make sure I don't need to do any other changes. So at the moment I'm only going to do just this one first box. And I'm also not gluing it. Because, you know, if you need to make changes, it's kind of hard to make changes once you've glued everything together. Usually I have something random to say, so apparently I'm drawing a little bit of a blank today. I'm kind of wishing I were outside at the moment. It's been slightly rainy today, but mostly sunny. I'm really hoping that this weather actually holds out, because then this weekend I will be able to get the carpet glued onto the boxes, and that'll let me get everything done in time to do a couple of test runs, set everything up. We've actually got a church event that we're going to provide sound and lights for the day before we leave for Utah. So it'll be a good run through. Oh, actually, I apologize. I wasn't building a speaker box. That was the new mirror ball box, and I was trying to figure out what to put in it. I was actually trying to think of a way to like hang some straps so the mirror ball is like suspended all the time, but it has to be tight enough that it won't like swing. And then I realized all the parts I've been getting came in all kinds of packing materials, so why not just take advantage of that? So I threw all that in the mirror ball box. But again, like I said, I'm not actually gluing anything yet. I'm trying to make sure everything is ready to go. So now I'm working on the placement of the hole for the sub. And I didn't get the camera died before I got any footage of this, but this is an old roto zip, which was back in the day it wasn't sold in stores. It was like one of those special buy off TV type things, and there's been a few different versions that have come out since then, and I think I actually remember seeing the actual RotoZip brand in Lowe's or Home Depot or something like that. I don't remember. It's a great little, basically just a router, kind of. It's like a cross between a router and a Dremel. It's come in handy for a lot of different things, but this is the reason that it was actually purchased, was specifically being able to cut circles. Now I've learned over the years that it doesn't like cutting circles in particle or in plywood very well. So what I'm actually using at the moment is a masonry bit to basically just grind out a groove. And the downside is that it doesn't discharge the sawdust as well as a saw bit does, but it doesn't heat up as much, and it doesn't break as easily. So the wood blades, I've learned, tend to break, and if I were doing a bunch of different holes like I am, I would invariably end up going through quite a few. And even if I try and do a shallow cut and then a deeper cut and then a cut all the way through, it still just somehow creates enough heat that the blade becomes weak and ends up breaking. So I've just, since I have some pattern bits, I figured this would be a better way to do it, and maybe a little bit takes a few minutes longer, but since the blades for this are becoming more difficult to find, I figured this would be the smarter way to do it. The downside to it is that the circle attachment that it came with is only capable of a 12-inch circle, and on this, for the subs, I need an actual it's like just shy of 14-inch cutout for the baffle. So what I ended up doing was actually routing like an 11-inch circle, and then using the rotosip at a smaller setting and following the circle point, the center point, in the groove that I had just created, and then just creating a 2.5 or 3-inch wider circle. It was a little weird, but it worked. So I'm just, now that I've got that hole cut though, I'm just double checking that it's big enough, and then I'm cleaning the edges with the pattern bits, and I intentionally cut shy of where I needed to be, and so here you can kind of see there's 2 rings in there, but on that first one I cut pretty shy of where I needed to be because I just wanted to double check and make sure, and it turned out to be that the hole was the exact right size. So the second time I just cut it out right where it needed to be and cleaned it up with the pattern bit, and it fit perfect. So we're good to go there. So now that I've got most of the stuff cut out, I'm gonna punch some or drill some holes in the baffle cutout so that I can put the jigsaw in there, and then I'm just going to do the exact same thing. I've already, like I said, I didn't get the footage of it for these full range boxes, but it goes pretty quick and pretty easy, and to be honest, it's less tedious than I remember to be able to do this with just making a groove. If I were doing this more, then it might be worth actually taking the time to make one of these and then create a pattern that I can set aside, and then just use the jigsaw to start with. But I don't think I really do enough to really keep track of that. So, like, I do plan on building 4 more full range eventually and 2 more subs, because I have a little bit weird of a philosophy compared to most DJs. Most DJs want to get as much sound out of one speaker as they possibly can, and so they crank it and blare it, and it becomes distorted and painful to listen to for a lot of the events and venues that I've been at over the years. I'm always super impressed when I go to a concert, for instance, and the sound quality is more important than the decibel level. And TSO, Depeche Mode, NSYNC, those are actually some of the best sounding concerts I've ever been to. Aerosmith and Goo Goo Dolls and Hoobastank were definitely the worst sounding concerts I've ever been to, which says a lot. I've been to a lot of different concerts. I can't include things like 50 Cent and Snoop Dogg in either list because those were concerts I intentionally avoided. Those were concerts where there wasn't any time to pay attention to the performing because the crowds were more troublesome, we shall say. But yeah, there's been a lot of concerts over the years. So now that those are all cut out, though, it's time to start assembling. And these go together pretty well. Emily had to show me that we had a rat that's been bugging our chickens, and we found some rat traps at the hardware store that are amazingly strong, actually. The spring on them was surprisingly strong, and so she showed me that it was finally successful, and that was a pretty good sized rat there. Surprisingly, it didn't go after peanut butter like the mice do. Apparently she had to take some of the corn kernels out of the chicken feed and put them in the trap, and then that got the rat that night. Which I guess we should have known that the rats like corn, because we tried drying some popcorn our first year here, and we thought we could set it up on top of stuff and kind of hang it in our little tool shed that we built, which was not sealed at all, and so that was enough to attract the rats, and before we could even do anything with the corn, we lost every single ear of popcorn. They were all completely chewed off and had no kernels on them at all, which was super disappointing. So we haven't actually tried to grow popcorn again for the last couple of years because of that experience, because we know we have to have somewhere protected to actually dry the kernels. So who knows, maybe this fall we'll be able to do that. Maybe if we hang the kernels inside the spare room or something, or the stalks in the spare room or something, we'll be able to dry the popcorn. But I don't think we're gonna try that this year again. Maybe next year. We do love our popcorn around here. There's an old video from a few years back where we demonstrated our popcorn, and we use that bowl method every time we make popcorn, which is pretty frequently. I bet we go through 250 pounds of popcorn in a year. We go through a lot. Yeah, maybe not quite that much. I take that back. Now we do.
50 pounds a year? No problem.
Yeah, now we do, because we actually have some of our friends gave us a silicone microwave popcorn maker that I was extremely skeptical about when we got it, and it has made popcorn making so much easier that we actually use it probably a couple times a week on some weeks. It used to be, it took a few minutes. It took about 7 to 10 minutes to make a batch of popcorn with the bowl, and so it was enough of an ordeal that it wasn't always like, do I want to do this or do I want to just not have popcorn? But with the microwave bowl, you just throw it in, and like it works exactly like a little microwave bag from the store. But there's no oils, there's no butter. Not to say we don't put butter on, but I don't like as much butter as most people apparently. When we've made popcorn for other people, that's the biggest complaint that I get, is that I don't put enough butter. I only put like about 1 to 2 tablespoons of butter on an entire batch of popcorn, which would be like a half cup of kernels. Um, and then about a teaspoon of salt, which is not entirely, like, that's a little more than you'd think than it sounds, because we actually have a popcorn spice blend, and it's only about maybe 50 or 60% salt. The rest of it's stuff like rosemary and fennel and peppercorn. Um, Sometimes whatever it feels like I put in it, but I do actually have 2 different popcorn spice recipes that we use. So that's a lot of fun flavor that we get out of that. And yeah, popcorn's good. And since it's not like the oil-ridden, butter-dripping stuff that you get in the theaters, it's actually a lot healthier for you than that stuff. But it is what it is. It is definitely an enjoyable treat. So as I said, these little boxes go pretty quick. They're pretty easy. What I started doing is pre-drilling and starting all of the screws for each side and then the tops, and that just helps make things go a little bit easier as I go. And this little bucket that I'm using for glue it works phenomenally. It's just an old screw bucket, and then I think that's a 4-inch cheap paintbrush. But the brush is long enough that if I put the bristles in one corner, of the little screw bucket, it keeps the handle out of the screw bucket, or out of the glue, so it actually works really well. I can close the lid, and I don't know that it actually seals airtight, so I don't leave the glue in it, but since it has a corner, it actually pours quite easily back into the gallon jug. And I have no idea what type of glue I'm using. If you're curious about that, it's going to be a tight bond of some kind, just because that's what's available at the store here locally. But I don't remember which version. So this is just putting the smaller mid woofer box and attaching it to the back side of the larger face for the 12-inch woofer box. That's how you end up with the 3-way. Is the little woofer has its own space, and I didn't put any braces inside that little tiny space just because I figured 3/4-inch plywood is, plenty strong, that I don't think it's going to flex at all from the vibrations of a little tiny 4-inch speaker. I could be wrong. We'll find out when I test it. But I'm pretty sure that's plenty strong. And then having the face of the 4-inch woofer's box glued to the back of the 12-inch woofer's face guarantees that's got plenty of strength there. So this is that amplifier box that will hold the larger of the 2 amplifiers. So I'm taking that apart now and then gluing it, just to make sure that everything is nice and firm and solid and don't have to worry about any of it. And there's a few screws used. The nice part about having it assembled already is two things. One is the screw holes act as guides, so as long as you assemble it the first time well, then you don't have to worry about that. So, and then the second is that you don't have to clamp it because the screws hold everything and make it a lot easier. And so this is the lid to the mirror ball box. Then the box itself. There's not too much to it. I mean, they're a lot easier than I've built a few different kinds of equipment boxes over the years, and I mean they're really just boxes. This is actually one of the reasons why I don't think I will hire anybody when we get around to our kitchens that we'll be building, because cabinets are just a box. You put some shelves in some, you put doors in some, you put drawers in some, you put a fancy face frame on, and then there is a little bit of precision work to that. There's definitely some tricks and practice that I need with that. With just double checking to make sure that everything is perfectly square. These boxes were closer to perfect than any box that I've ever had, and I think actually if I had the lights flickering there because the battery's dying, but if I had calculated correctly, then these probably would have actually fit even better than I expected. And the reason for that is that for some reason in my head, I have that plywood is still measured at 3/4 of an inch thick. I don't even remember the last time I had a plywood board that was actually 3/4 of an inch thick, so it's been 20 plus years that was the case. I remember the first time I saw, whatever it is, 23/32 and 7/16 and all of these stupid measurements. It was just baffling to me why they weren't providing them as the proper measure, the advertised measurement. So why call it 3/4 inch if you're not willing to make it 3/4 of an inch thick anymore? That's always bugged me. 2x4s, same thing. It's one of the reasons why when I mill my lumber, I cut it as actual dimension or slightly over. So if I know I need a 2-inch finished piece, I cut it at 2 1/4 so that I have room to work with to bring that down to what I need. But then I can actually say it's 2 inches thick, not say it's 2 inches thick and really have it be an inch and 3/4 or an inch and a half. So anyway, one of the last things I had to do before I started actually assembling the full mid-range or the full range boxes was to route out these holes. I think I mentioned the troubles I was having with the hole saw last time, so just getting those cleaned up and ready to go. But this is where I end up calling it for the night. Clean up a few things and shut down. So thank you as always for watching. God bless you and yours, and I hope you stay safe and healthy out there.